let's jump right in. So, first question, and this coach has actually been to visit us in person here for a couple days, just not too long ago, is Matthew Davis. And he asks, in large team settings, high school track for him personally, where do you fall on the importance of videoing drills versus reviewing film of acceleration / max velocity? For context, he writes, I have about a 35-to-1 ratio and was thinking about trying to do some review on the drills this winter instead of focusing as much on the running. So thoughts on videoing drills for large groups of athletes?
Yeah, I guess I can start. First, it's a little bit out of our the population that we work with, right? Because we don't have anywhere near a 35-to-1 ratio, but we've all coached for long enough at this point in our career where we have in the past done something similar. I think if we zoom out a little bit and see what we're trying to do from video to begin with, I think that's instructive. So if you're trying to get some concepts across to athletes, perhaps a good way to do that is just to have a 30-minute session at some point during the week or some point during time where you're just showing video of anybody really, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the athletes themselves, and discuss these concepts that you're trying to get across and that you're going to be trying to get work on during training. So that's one way we can use film. It doesn't necessarily even have to be of the athletes themselves, right? The second is just have somebody film, if you've got an injured athlete or if you've got an assistant coach or what have you, or even you, just make sure you got a camera out there and you're filming somebody, or at some point you've filmed everybody, go home, edit it into something that's 5 minutes long and throw it out to everybody. And then maybe again, the following week, you've just got a classroom session where you get together for 15 or 20 minutes prior to training and you go over this and just briefly talk about the generalities. I think what's really too difficult is to film and talk about individual stuff. It's impossible at training if you've got 35 people. It's impossible to do if you've got 5 people. For me, we do a lot of filming at practice, but we never watch film at practice ever. I'll look at it when I get home. I'll see things. I'll have conversations maybe over text with some of the athletes. Maybe we'll review prior to practice. Maybe we'll review after practice, but we never do that in the middle of practice. So I think that's important. So there's a few different ways that you can do it, but that's definitely not one of them. I really feel like, from a philosophical standpoint, that many coaches just over rely on video at this point. Coaching really is about developing your eye, developing your communication skills so you can get across what you're seeing to the athletes in ways that make sense to them. None of that requires or video. Let's just do a better job of understanding what we're seeing and then communicating what we're seeing and then communicating what we'd like to see.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree in large group settings. I think the continuous strategic review of video on a global scale is important, especially if you're dealing with, younger athletes. They like that visual representation and trying to be able to see themselves or someone like them moving and understanding it from that point. And then going back and reviewing every couple of weeks as a group, I think is very helpful. And then to Matthew's question about, videoing drills versus max velocity or acceleration, if you think there's something that you can improve with your group through video, then go ahead and video it. It's fair game as far as I'm concerned. Again, as long as it doesn't get in the way of practice and you can do it in a systematic way to kind of track progress or show the athletes progress or continue to give them different cues and insights while they're watching the video that helps their performance with whatever aspect of training you want. I think that's fair game. That's kind of what I've done with large scale groups as well. So
yeah, I don't really see those two categories, either drills versus acceleration, as being mutually exclusive, right? The drills are basically a mechanism to establish context for the athlete, and then the acceleration is the skill, which is very different than conducting the drill. So now some of the things that are coming out of the drills are useful. So like you said, I think there's utility in filming and reviewing both of those, not just one or the other. And in terms of like larger group context, like which we work in, in a club and collegiate settings, if you think that something's important enough that you want to film it, it's easy to kind of, stagger the group across a week where you just do a week of video on a basic skill that you're trying to learn. Have 5 or 6 people come in on Monday, and then a different 5 or 6 on Tuesday, and et cetera, and just rotate through. Then finally, I think, there definitely are, I've had conversations with people about this summer. There are definitely products that are coming out onto the market that are going to make this a lot easier, where you just basically, start the camera and have the athletes go through set cones, and you can have the ability to collect video on large groups of athletes and be able to tag them and identify them quite easily, and then get a lot of metrics back as well, which you haven't been able to do historically from strictly video. We've always relied on external equipment.
Yeah, sounds really cool. And I mean, nothing's more fun for athletes than watching their teammates on video, maybe not performing something properly and getting corrected, because that also increases their learning curve quite a bit. You see it all the time. You have athletes clowning on each other, like, "Oh, look what you did." So just even identifying their own faults or on their teammates' faults in a playful and constructive way can be a fun way for those athletes to learn. So yeah, video away, I say.
Yeah, I just got one final thing to say there, Andreas. I don't want to come across like I'm anti-video, because I think watching video is how we all sort of develop our own eyes over the course of time, right? We've all, 3 of us, have watched thousands of hours of videos, and only through that have we developed, our understanding of what this should look like and could look like. So I think it's a really important thing, but that's separate and different from videoing and at practice showing athletes and breaking it down that way, which I feel like is happens too often. That's not the point for me. The point is, film as much as you can, watch as much film as you possibly can, get better understanding movement, and then get better understanding how to communicate that movement. It's one of the reasons why we, obviously came up with the kinogram method, right? It's film it, look at shapes in time, trying to, see how those shapes change over time, and how we can manipulate those shapes from our coaching. I think that's the whole foundation of the coaching process.
Yeah, 100%. Be a discerning filmer and don't let it distract you from the actual practice session. Yeah, good points.